Hello once again, and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel, where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to another episode of Surviving Romance, and in this episode, I'm going to show all of you how to make one of the finest custards you could possibly add to your repertoire. This is what is known as lemon curd or lemon custard, quite possibly one of the most versatile dessert items you could add to your repertoire. To make this, the first thing that we need a total of 4 lemons, 1 cup of sugar, 5 large egg yolks, and a stick of butter. Now that we've established that, let's talk about what you're seeing happening right now on camera. What you're seeing me do is I'm grating the lemon, just taking that outer layer of skin, the zest if you will, off so I can incorporate this into the lemon curd which we'll be making. Now, why am I doing this? Well, ironically enough, the real true essence of the lemon is in that skin. About 90% of the flavor, I do believe, if I remember correctly. That being said, we need that zest so we don't just get the sourness, the acidity of the lemon. We need that zest to add flavor. Now, we could use a bar grater, but you got to chop that up, and if you don't get it fine enough, it gets caught in your teeth. We could use a peeler and take off just enough of that outer layer to get that zest, but then we still got to chop it up and it can get caught in our teeth. This is not exactly what I call good cuisine, okay? So what I like to use is that fine grater that you see in the foreground. It takes off just enough of the zest and makes it fine enough when I incorporate it into the food, doesn't get caught in your teeth, okay? And again, you need this to add that flavor that you need to really make the lemon curd really pop. Okay, so this is super important. As a matter of fact, I've even talked to one particular lady, and she thought this was really odd. Trust me, without the zest of this lemon, this recipe just would just really not be as potent as it just wouldn't turn out as nicely. And for the record, lemon zest is one of the key ingredients to my homemade lemonade. Thank you very much. Hey, that's another episode, okay? Anyhow, so get just enough of the zest off of that outer layer, and be sure not to go too far or you run into the pith, and the pith is just absolutely horrible. That's not what we're going for, so just be careful that you don't go too far, okay? Once you have your zest of 4 lemons, you can set that aside, because here in just a moment, we're going to need to break out a knife, a good cutting board, because we're going to need to cut up said lemons, and we need the juice of those lemons, okay? So this we're going to be using as much natural product as we can possibly get our hands on to really make this curd come together and just truly come to life. Now that we have the zest of 4 lemons, we need the juice of those 4 lemons. You need enough juice to fill a third of a cup, or if you have a little bit more juice than that, you can use more juice. We did in this particular recipe, I think I had a little bit more than a third of a cup. Not quite 2/3 of a cup, but it was pretty close to that. And it didn't hurt anything at all. Because once you start adding the heat to it, it'll thicken up. You won't even notice. Just made it a little bit stronger flavored. But if your lemons are being, fickled and they won't quite give you that third of a cup, you can top it off with a little bit of water. It'd be totally fine. That sort of thing. Now, the next thing that I need to say is please do not use that prepackaged lemon juice that comes in that stupid little plastic bottle that's shaped like a lemon. I've found in the past that when I've tried to use that sort of stuff for recipes, it never turns out. So please just skip the prepackaged stuff and go right to the natural source. Squeeze your own lemons or get yourself a good juicer. There's some of them out there that have measuring cups attached to them, and they're relatively cheap. So, don't sell this short. We're doing this for our other halves. And how many times do I have to say it here on the Prince Magnum channel? If they're worth it, you'll do it. So, again, this is one of these times you want to take the time. Now, since we are cutting lemons, I don't need to tell you all to be careful. Be careful. Don't cut yourself. Fingertips in food is not exactly what I call good cuisine. So practice, good safe skills when using a knife, okay? And use a good sharp knife. A dull knife will hurt you just as quickly as being unsafe with a knife, okay? So just be careful. Be careful. All right? And while we're also on the subject of cutting lemons, use a good plastic cutting board or a good wooden cutting board. Don't do this on a glass cutting board. Don't do this on a plate. Don't just hack it on a countertop. Take good care of your tools, and they'll take good care of you in the long run. Okay. When I'm feeling low, I don't mind sharpening a good knife. It gives me a sense of purpose, but I don't like doing it just because. So take care of your tools, folks. I can't stress that enough, all right? So now that we've got our juice of 4 lemons and the zest of 4 lemons, the next thing we need to do is separate some eggs. Okay, let's break out our eggs. Now, I don't know about all of you. I am not that good at separating eggs inside of the egg shell, okay? I'm just not that good. So what I like to do is I like to use a good slotted spoon. Now, these are relatively cheap. You can get them just about anywhere. And what you do is you get good, fresh eggs, kind of shake them around in there. The whites fall away for the most part. And boom, right there, you've got yourself your egg yolk. This is definitely an important skill to know how to do if, say, you're making angel food cake, or anything, you just need egg whites or whatever, whatever the recipe calls for. If you have to separate eggs, this is an awesome skill to know how to have, or the ability to know how to use tools for more than one job in your kitchen and still be right. Now, I also know that there are special egg separating tools out there, but why do that when you've already probably got the tool in your kitchen anyways? And I mean, like one of my favorite chefs of all time, Chef Alton Brown, will say is the only unitasker he likes to keep in the kitchen is a fire extinguisher. I tend to agree with him on this because I live in an apartment complex, and space is not always something that is easily available in an apartment complex. So having tools that can do multiple jobs is a definite must here at HQ. So you yourself might want to invest in a good slotted spoon. Of course, there are many things you could do with that slotted spoon. Let's not forget, there's pastas to be made and, all sorts of stuff like that. So you're not just getting this for egg separation. So again, cuts down on the multiple tools you need for awesome recipes in your repertoire. Now, while we're also on the subject of eggs, do not crack your eggs on the side of a bowl or on the edge of a counter or something like that. That shoves little shards up inside the egg. And I'll be honest with you, biting down into shrapnel is not exactly what I call good cuisine. So to avoid that, crack it on a flat surface, countertop, or a plate or something to that effect, and you're less likely to have the issue of getting eggshells in the food. Just a little something to help you along the way as you're making this wonderful lemon curd for your other half. Alright folks, now it's time to get a cup of sugar and start incorporating into our stainless steel mixing bowl the egg yolks, the lemon zest, the lemon juice, and the cup of sugar. And we want to stir this up. We want to mix it up thoroughly so we don't have any more graininess in the food. Because what we're going to be using the stainless steel mixing bowl for is a double boiler. More on that as the video progresses. Now, let's talk about using the stainless steel mixing bowl. The stainless steel mixing bowl for the double boiler, I don't know if there would be any ill effects if you use copper, but I know using aluminum doesn't quite turn out so well. The acid content, sometimes the citric acid, like in tomatoes or any other citrus product, has a nasty tendency to react very badly with aluminum. So I would definitely avoid it in this particular case. Go right to the stainless steel. Let me say right now, stainless steel mixing bowls are relatively cheap. If you don't have one in your kitchen, you might want to consider picking one up, or maybe you might want to consider asking your mother-in-law for one if you are so inclined. Either which way you're going about it, just stick with stainless steel in this case, and you'll be just fine in the long run. Alright, as we continue to stir up and make sure there's nothing grainy in there, let's talk about the whisk that I'm using. I like to use a whisk on this because it gives me more control in controlling how this lemon curd is going to turn out. Definitely you want to get a good solid metal whisk with as many tines as possible. The plastic ones are way too flimsy to do anything with. That's why I avoid them like the plague. This one here has been pretty faithful to me, and I really like it. If you're not like me and you want to spend as little money as possible, go to a thrift store. They have them for next to nothing, and they'll last you for many, many years. You'll be very happy you picked one of these up. So, if you don't have one, definitely you should consider getting one. Okay folks, it's time to start turning this wonderful mixture into our soon-to-be custard. What we're going to be using is a double boiler. Now what a double boiler is basically we'll be taking our stainless steel mixing bowl and putting it inside the pot that you see right here. Now the pot needs to hold the mixing bowl where there's still just enough room where it doesn't touch the bottom, and you need to be able to put enough water in there that it comes about an inch away from the bottom of the mixing bowl. You're going to turn the heat up and bring your pot of water to a nice, good boil. We're not looking for a really violent boil, but we're looking for a good, solid boil, okay? What will then happen is that the steam from the boil will cover the entire bottom of the mixing bowl and help give us a nice, gentle, even cook, if you will. Now I know there's some particular recipes that say do this in the oven, which is exactly why we're doing this on the cooktop. Custards have to be stirred. They have to be stirred often, which brings us to one of the most important parts of this video and why we're using the double boiler and a whisk. If you stop whisking for very long, you end up with something like a lemon flavored sweetened omelet, which doesn't really exactly sound it. I've never had that happen, but I doubt it. It eats as good as it sounds. So to avoid that, that's why we're doing it on the cooktop, and to take out insurance, we're doing it with the double boiler. Just remember, once you start this actual process right here, there is no turning back, and whatever you do, don't stop whisking. Continue to whisk. You don't necessarily have to whisk your arm off, but don't stop whisking for an extended period of time, okay? Continue to whisk, and what we're looking for is a very thickened consistency. The thickened consistency that we're looking for is the custard has to be able to coat the back of a spoon. The French call that nappe. I call it perfectly done, all right? So now that we have that established, here in just a moment, you're going to see exactly what we're looking for. Alright, at this stage in the game, our custard is now thick enough where it will coat the back of a spoon. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to take it off the heat, and if you haven't done so already, you're going to take that stick of butter and cut it up into 8 to 10 pieces. You're going to add one piece at a time and stir it in with your whisk. Once that piece of butter is melted, you're going to add the next piece. If you do need, if your custard all of a sudden for some reason isn't hot enough to melt each piece of butter, go ahead and put it back on the double boiler for a few moments and add a little bit of heat back in, and so you can melt your butter. Once that is done, go ahead and let it cool on the countertop, and then you can then turn right around and throw it in the fridge, and you'll find that your custard will take on like a peanut butter consistency, perfect for spreading on bagels, pound cake, toast, angel food cake. This stuff is absolutely amazing, which you're going to see in the next clip here in just a moment. All right, now it's time to go ahead and serve some of this wonderful stuff up. Right here we have bagels, we have just regular old toast, we have some angel food cake. And what you're actually going to see me do is top these off with raspberries. If raspberries aren't your thing, you might want to consider strawberries. This is absolutely wonderful. This is just a wonderful serving option. Serve up a bunch and just have yourself kind of like a dessert dinner. Or maybe the next time that your other half decides to invite friends over for that, evening that they're just going to hang out and do their thing, maybe you might want to help your other half entertain her guests and serve this up as kind of like a nice dessert after a nice dinner that you may have whipped up to really show off how wonderful of another half you are. Now, this stuff is also keeps for a little while in the refrigerator. If you're smart enough to put it inside of a jar, it'll keep for up to a month if you can keep the knife out of it. So, that being said, again, this is a wonderful dessert for my wonderful other half, Princess Feyru. At this stage in the game, I think it's about time to go ahead and give some special shout-outs. The shout-outs that I would like to give today is to these fine folks who were kind of the inspiration for this video. These people are fine, wonderful people that continually try to push me here on the channel to put out the best possible content for all of you out there within the Maverick Nation. You could say that these are hard-working cogs within the Maverick Nation. So many of them do have YouTube channels, so you might want to go ahead and go over to their channel right now and show them the same love that you've shown me here on the channel. That also being said, at this stage, if you've not had the opportunity to check out the Patreon account, be sure to go over to patreon.com/Prince Magnum, and if you're able to donate, it's always appreciated. And as always, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is, just do something with yourself. Remember, idle hands and a creative mind go together like oil and water. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet. You might even consider making lemon curd for them today. And as always, for all of you out there, if no one out there has told you that they love you, Prince Magnum does. God bless you, and have a happy 24. Thank you.